I tweeted out earlier that we were going to discuss if Patrick Mahomes has the largest gonads in the history of mankind. Does he?
Brock Purdy's got some pretty large gonads, but
He
I do
does.
think
He
Patrick
does.
Mahomes probably does have the largest gonads, man. That was the
Yeah.
biggest reason why they won this football game, man. Carson, Patrick Mahomes has immortalized himself as a football legend at this point already in his career. He is a part of, I think the Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks in NFL history and potentially the Mount Rushmore of just NFL players, point blank, period. You talk about the game winning drive in overtime, the game tying drive in regulation. I mean, this is where legends are made. This is where guys are immortalized forever on the biggest stage in football in the Super Bowl, right? We can talk about all the accomplishments, all the things these guys do game to game, play to play. The Super Bowl is where the chips are down and where memories are ultimately made. Tom Brady had two of these moments, right, where Adam Vinatieri leads him through, kicks the field goal. He's got the greatest comeback in football history on the biggest stage with 28-3. And this is another one of those classic football moments that puts you a part of that elite group, man. Mahomes and the Chiefs are 7-0 over the last two postseasons. They are the first team to win back-to-back Super Bowls since the 2003 and 2004 Patriots. He has a 13-1 touchdown interception ratio over the past two postseasons. He's the first quarterback, Carson, ever. This is ridiculous. This is the stat that I think really hammers home how ridiculous Patrick Mahomes' start to his career is. He's the first quarterback ever to start in 4 Super Bowls before turning 30, and obviously because of that, he's the only quarterback to win 3 before turning 30. He's got the most playoff wins by any quarterback in a 6-year span. And you're right, Carson. There was a lot of skepticism around this team with injuries, with guys going out late, with receiver mishaps and offensive miscommunications, and a really bad back half of the season. Carson, Patrick Mahomes posted his career high in turnovers this season with 17. He posted his worst record as a starting quarterback, going 11-6. And yet there's just this feel, this inevitability. Carson, on that final possession that the Niners had in overtime, it felt like if Brock Purdy and them do not put this ball in the end zone and they give this man an opportunity to win the game, that's what he's going to do. He's the grim freaking reaper of the NFL, man. He has assumed the position that Tom Brady held for so long, where if you give him 2 minutes, if you give him a minute 30, it doesn't matter. If you give him time on the clock, point blank period, he is going to make something happen. He is Thanos, man. And it's just... It's so weird. I talk about the moments. I talk about the accomplishments. Now he is a part of just one of 5 quarterbacks to win 3 Super Bowls. Brady, Bradshaw, Montana, Aikman. He's 15-3 in 18 career playoff games. And he just plays by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
Carson, that's my conclusion is, we can talk about legacy, how he's been immortalized. Patrick Mahomes is simply just better when his back is against the wall, when the pressure is on, when the chips are down, when the clock is ticking down. He is at his best when he's stressed, when in these up-tempo rhythm late-game situations, when his back against the wall. When his back is against the wall, Patrick Mahomes fights like a caged animal, a caged beast, and he's going to get the job done, man. He's the biggest... The defense deserves a lot of credit for what they did in this football game. They deserve an immense amount of credit. But the guy that got them over the finish line, the guy that put the nail in the coffin, was the Grim Reaper, Patrick Mahomes.
He's the best football player I've ever seen, and I'm not proclaiming him the GOAT yet, but I think that if he's not in your top 2, you need to explain your criteria to me, because that would be like saying that Michael Jordan retiring after the first three-peat couldn't be in those conversations because of longevity. No, when a guy is just clearly the best to ever do it, has reached the highest peak, doesn't matter if other guys sustained really good production for longer. You can't tell me that if Mahomes retired today, you'd be like, yeah, I think that Peyton deserves to be above him. I think that I've got Johnny U or Joe Montana above him. It just doesn't make sense. He does things that nobody else in the history of the sport has been capable of. And I would call him the great equalizer, but that would honestly be selling him short, because no matter what he is up against, he is somehow always going to tip the scales, not just to a point where they're equal, in Kansas City's favor. He is going to put you over the top. And you mentioned, Logan, the inevitability that it felt like there still was for those Mahomes clutch drives in this game shouldn't have been possible. Would it be possible with any other player in football history to me? Even Brady, who of course has delivered more big moments in big games over the course of a career than anybody ever. But I just don't think when you're talking about this level of adverse circumstances in terms of the talent around him, being at this sort of talent deficit, there's just a different level of creation, of magical things just on the back of sheer athleticism that Mahomes can do. But they were really struggling early in this game. They were overwhelmed at the line of scrimmage. And shout out to Steve Wilks. He was disguising coverage as well. I thought that he called a great first half in this game. And it just felt like the Niners were totally in control. The Chiefs were falling behind the sticks. You have some runs up the middle that get stuffed. You have a Mahomes sack. You have the two situations where on 2nd and long after a negative play, they just run these very simple receiver and tight end screens that are totally blown up. There's no other player who could be in that situation, and I would still have the faith to say, yeah, I think that somehow, even though this other team is clearly more talented and look way better, that you are still going to find a way to win. But that's just the Mahomes factor. And when it came down to those two clutch drives, he had big moments before that. I thought just keeping them in the game, down 10-3, he has that huge scramble on 3rd and 4 where he takes that contact and he just goes through a couple of defenders. And then he has the read option, big gain to at least get them into scoring position. They needed something at that point. But really, when it came to that fourth quarter, first of all, he actually marched them down the field easily for the first time all game. But then when they're down 3, he comes up with just consistent, methodical offense. He was just surgical, just picking apart those soft zone looks, gets them in scoring position. And then overtime was special. Overtime was maybe the most impressive drive of Mahomes' career, and that is really saying something. You have, of course, the early 4th down. How insane would it be, Logan, with basically any other player in NFL history to say, 4th down, yeah, I think that we're going to line up in the shotgun here. And if we did anything else, you would say, you're idiots. Like, why would you ever not put the ball in the hands of your quarterback out of shotgun and give him the opportunity to make a play in space? Andy Reid, I thought, maybe had a couple of rough moments early in this game, but I thought that he was brilliant down the stretch. But at the end of the day, that's Mahomes making a play. Kelsey's covered. He easily scrambles for the first there. Then he has to overcome what he's been having to overcome all year, which is boneheaded plays for his receivers, who I don't want to rag on over the totality of this game, but my God, MVS, what the hell is wrong with you? Could have had a gain of 5 or 6. Instead, after that first wrap, spins out, loses 4 yards. So now you're again behind the sticks, and he has that big 3rd down conversion to Rashee Rice. Then he has the huge scramble on the subsequent 3rd and 1 for 15 yards. Like, he just did whatever it took, man. Whatever it took. And I do think that the use of his legs is really a special testament to that. 66 yards on the ground today, on top of 333 through the air and 2 touchdowns. Yes, the defense was remarkable, and this isn't the most explosive performance from the Chiefs offense that we've ever seen, far from it. But in terms of individual quarterback performances, this has to be up there in those all-time conversations.
Oh, 100%. I think it has to be. I mean, the level of control that Mahomes exerted. And look, man, people are going to, if people want to hate on Mahomes from this game, it will be because they overblow the interception. And I do want to say
if you hate on Mahomes for this game, then you are not worth engaging in a conversation.
True.
That was superhero stuff.
And it's got to be such a gut-wrenching, like, I mean, heart out of your chest kind of game feel for the 49ers, because they played this game as perfectly as you can play against Mahomes. All of the stops in the red zone. Like, credit for Mahomes for getting the team down there. Credit for him for that big shot play early in the first quarter where they squander a red zone possession because of a Pacheco fumble. I mean, the Niners hemmed him up really well. Stifled them completely in the red zone. I mean, guys, their only touchdown in regulation comes off of a muffed punt. Without that muffed punt, the Niners probably win this football game. I mean, they were getting down there, but they weren't able to, actually punch it in. And then finally, when the Niners defense is tired, they think that they're going to get off the field. They muff the punt. Boom. Right after that, Mahomes gets into the end zone. It just has to be demoralizing, man, because the Niners played as perfect a game I can remember. It's like the Bills, man. That's how this feels, Carson, is them losing that 13-second game. But this is one of the greatest QB performances ever. And statistically, you may not look at it where you go, oh, he didn't have 4 TDs or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're trying to get across. Like, when we're making these statistic cases, it's like Lamar's level of control that we've discussed throughout the season. Lamar just controls the game. Mahomes controlled the game, and he did enough in every scenario, right? That's something that I think we need to hammer home is that, no, they didn't get a TD on every drive, and no, they weren't perfect in the red zone, but they consistently moved the ball. They consistently got points. Mahomes consistently made plays in crucial spots, and that's not something that I can say for the quarterback that was opposite him, Brock Purdy. Carson, that was a key for you for coming into this game. And again, that's a blanket statement you could make for any football game, but it was the Chiefs executing in the red zone, and they didn't. The Niners did a phenomenal job of defending them in the red zone. And if there was a guy that left meat on the, food on the plate, meat on the bone, it was Brock Purdy leaving his own team short. Like, Mahomes didn't put the ball in the end zone every single drive, but he methodically moved it, and he kept the Chiefs getting points that were crucial to them finishing this thing off, man. I think it is one of the, like you said, dude, with the circumstances, with an all-pro guard out, with all the immense pressure that the Niners were getting home, with all the times that they got stonewalled in the red zone, Mahomes just overcame and did it. It truly is one of the greatest Super Bowl performances that I can remember by a quarterback, especially considering the final 2 drives.
Yeah, he's the only guy ever to have 330 passing yards and 60 rushing yards in the same game. And last year, I thought that he was so clean. I thought that he was basically flawless in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. And maybe he wasn't flawless in this one because things were a little bit slow to start. And he wasn't able to just totally negate pressure throughout that first half. And he does force the one ball, understandably so, because things were going south. But that was still a bad pick that he threw. But when you are talking about clutch playmaking back against the wall, what can you do? Just delivered over and over and over again.